coming today. And to introduce today's program is going to be Dr. Cheri Davis. She is the director of the Planetarium over at Commerce, and she's going to be talking about all the things that they do over there. She's been, let's see, she's been there since 2005, so about 16 years now. And she also is an assistant professor of physics and astronomy at A&M Commerce, and is a NASA Texas Space Grant Consortium member. I'd be more interested in knowing what that is. And this month's programs. Okay. And so.
Just realized I have to put the sponsors in.
That's okay. That's okay. So without further ado, I'll let Cheri come up and take over.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation to come and visit with you today. Can you hear me? I will speak up. I am good at that. I have brought information about the planetarium and the observatory, and just want to share a few things with you and kind of what we do and what we have to provide this way of services. Maybe. There it goes. The planetarium is located inside the McFarland Science Building, which is this building right here on campus. And you can see the road coming through. This is Highway 24. And it was actually named after Dr. Keith McFarland. And I see a few familiar faces, so I'm wondering if you all have been to the planetarium. Yes? One time. I'm very grateful for Dr. McFarland. He decided we needed a new building, and he was correct, we did. Our old building was literally a science experiment in progress. It was built many, many years before and had many generations go through that building, so we were very grateful for it. When he got ready to start the new building, he told us he wanted a planetarium, and if he couldn't have the planetarium, he didn't want the building. So he really helped us to advance. And it's been fantastic for us, mainly because we have been able to bring through a lot of students, and it is a major outreach for the university. You'll see we actually have two locations. We have the planetarium, which is located on campus in town, and the observatory, which is not in town. It's located behind the blueberry farm out on Highway 5024. And it is open to the public on occasion, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in just a minute.
Are you listening?
The planetarium was just recently upgraded to a Digistar 7 system, which doesn't mean anything to anybody other than those that are in the planetarium business. When we opened in 2005, we had a Digistar 3, and in 2015 we upgraded to a Digistar 5. And then just this last year, with COVID being closed, we decided to go ahead and do another upgrade. Our computers were in good shape, but the software was pretty much outdated, so we just did a software update, which allowed us to spend a lot less money and get a newer system. We use the planetarium for teaching classes. We teach labs in there. Our students learn to navigate the night sky. We have public shows, again, very large outreach. We service about 100 school districts, not just schools. So for one district, we may have 20 or 30 different classes that will come. So that allows us to have a pretty broad reach. We also have functions. We're open to the public in the summer through June and July. We have our matinees. And then we're open every Friday night for shows, starting when classes start back in January. And we stay open up until the week of Christmas. We have about 3 weeks in there in between that we close for maintenance. But other than that, we're open pretty much year round. We also do a lot with different teachers, different school districts for professional development. We have found the area of astronomy to be one that the teachers really wish to learn more, and that allows us to do a great deal of more building on information. With the teaching, you can see up here, this is one of our grants that we ran so that we were able to work with some of those in-service teachers This particular one, we were doing an egg drop, which is a physics experiment. And so we go through these experiments with the teachers so that they can and then turn around and do them with their students. This is the SPS, which is the professional side of the physics department. This is Society for Physics Students. It's club-ish. And they come in and get involved in different types of outreach and public service. This image up here is PASS. It is a grant that was written by Dr. Lee, which is right here. And he and I have served, along with Dr. Montgomery, who is the department head for physics, to provide scholarships for our students. If they are a physics major, they can apply for the scholarship, and it helps to pay for their financial need to help them through their degree. This one here, this is Dr. Donham, who is our dean, and he was helping with one of our teachers' days. They had a professional development where they were coming in and learning how to do different things as teachers and pedagogy, and this was one of the activities that he was helping with. Right here you'll notice that we have a couple of students that we were working with. This was actually through the math department. They had written a grant to do arbors one year, and the next year they did benches. And then everything that the students built were placed around campus or in other locations like the city parks. And so all the materials for this were covered through the grant and then donated to the community. And this one right here, this is Dr. Williams. He's one of our astronomers, and he was manning the telescope. We kind of took turns through the day that day and put our Coronado. This scope is a very special scope in that it has an H-alpha filter so that we can look at the sun safely. And so we had it set up this day so that we could look at the sunspots. There was a lot of activity that was going on the surface. So it allowed us to be able to make safe viewing, but also bring in students to get to see something they may not have seen. Again, this is part of a grant where we had teachers already in the field come in and do some of our activities. This was a NASA grant that I had written many years ago and had the students come in, and with that they got to take materials, telescopes, different things back to their classrooms. They could share it with their colleagues and students. This one is actually one of my classes that I teach. It's integrated science for teachers. And in that, we have one that is physics-based and we have one that is chemistry-based. And in this particular one, we were talking about force of motion. So what more fun way to learn than to create roller coasters? Then they had to decipher where the potential energy and different energy breakdowns are. And then, of course, we're all in the goal of graduating our students. And this is Shandy. She just recently graduated this past year as one of our physics and astronomy majors. About 8 or 9 years ago, there was an eclipse that was not visible from our location. So Dr. Montgomery, who is the physics department head, and I decided to go to New Mexico. We went on a scouting expedition while we were there. We went through several different locations to see exactly what all the area had to offer and what we could do as far as taking students to go visit. We worked together with an archaeoastronomy class. He is actually the teacher of record and put those together, but we worked closely together for many years. And so we decided Chaco Canyon, which is in New Mexico and lower Colorado, there's another area up there that perfectly fit the content of that class. So we were going to start taking students on an archaeoastronomy field trip where they could actually climb through the ruins, see the glyphs, the rock carvings, and they could go through and see what it is that we've been talking about in class and studying. This image up here is our first group, and about 3 or 4 of these guys used to work for me at the time. We had so few students who wanted to take that trip that a lot of my staff got to go, which was really amazing. This guy in the red and black jacket now has his PhD. He is working at Lincoln Tech, teaching. And I've got some more students in here you'll see in a few minutes who also had gone through our program and moved on. So we've got about 3 or 4 that now have their PhDs through our physics and astronomy program. This is Chaco Canyon. This is one of the areas that we got to hike through. You go down, actually walk through most of the buildings, and then you can go up a canyon. Right through here, there is a crevice, and you could go up on top and take pictures. And so we got to do that with our students. They love the hike. They love going through and seeing the petroglyphs. And they can actually walk through, if they wanted to touch and see what exactly it is that people used to do. These are the ancient Incas and Mayans, so many, many years ago. This is one of the buildings that they went back and refinished. This is what we think they lived, how they lived, and what it looked like. And this is one of them that you can actually climb down inside. So it brings to life those things that we've studied. The planetarium, again, is used for teaching content. You'll see up here we have a demo that's going on about gravity. Dropping objects, do they fall at the same rate or do they fall at a different rate? One of my classes, we talk about Aristotle and his beliefs. And then we later on talk about Galileo and what we now know is correct. So we can talk about theory and advances in science and how those sciences really sometimes are correct and accurate, and sometimes we learn that as we advance we need to refigure our thinking. With the planetarium, this was our reopening in 2015 when we upgraded our system. We planned for about 200 or 300 people, and we think we had over 600 show that night. Very quickly learned that there were a whole lot more people that didn't know we existed until we started advertising this. And even today I will hear people go, I didn't know this was here. When did you guys open? And so they're usually very surprised to know we've been there over 15 years now. We do all kinds of activities for all different ages. You'll notice this is, I pointed out Dr. Williams, who had the telescope out. This is his wife, and she was doing balloon animals. Came to help us that night. And we had a dino dig. We had little eggs with plastic dinosaurs for our little people. And then SPS, our physics students, helped us with all of the different activities, and we had 2 or 3 rooms set up so that the kids could come try out the equipment. They could actually play with these things. And for them it's fun and it's encouraging. For us it is putting instruments in a child's hand and letting them explore, which is what the planetarium is all about. We want to get them there, but we want them to be exposed. The more they're exposed at an earlier, younger age, hopefully that will drive them to explore university life as an adult. This is another one of our professors, and he was doing a demo with piano. And these are some of our students. This guy right here actually has tenure. He is teaching at a junior college in Oklahoma. So we upgraded our facility when we were closed for COVID. First time since we opened in 2005, we were able to pull out the carpet, painted the walls, and new carpet, new seats that have tables. So we can actually use the facility, continue to use the facility for teaching classes. And again, I told you we upgraded to the Digistar 7, which allows us to do a whole lot more with our system than what we had previously been able to do. We go to Salt Lake City every 2 years for training, learn about what's new in the planetarium business, and collaborate with a lot of great people. This person right here used to be in Arlington. She is now in New York or New Jersey running a planetarium there. And my assistant, Patrick Ross, was with me when we went. This was like 2 weeks after I hired him. So it's like, welcome aboard, we're taking a trip. Salt Lake City is the home of ENS, Evans and Sutherland, which are the builders of our system. So every 2 to 3 years, the conference is actually at their facility, which allows us to see updates without any investments, which is absolutely amazing because they now have a new system they're putting in. I don't know if you guys have noticed on the Olympics, but they have a new planetarium system that's just gone online. Nobody knows exactly what is invested in just the computer system in that, but we're guessing well in advance of $10 million. And that was all put on by the same people that did our system. There it goes. This takes us places, allows us to do a lot of things. This up here is Space Grant. I've been a member of Space Grant since 2006. I'm actually a member of the consortium itself, which as long as our university remains active and members of the consortium, then our students can apply for scholarships. We usually end up giving out scholarships and fellowships, scholarships being for the undergrads and fellowships being for the graduate students, anywhere from $1,500 up to $5,000 annually. And so they can apply for that money every year. I get to go and judge some of these contests that they have that they put on that really end up, some of them may end up on the moon, the activities that they develop or the equipment that they develop through these contests. Some of it has ended up on the International Space Station. So it is at the college level, but it is contests using engineering, physics, biology that can actually be applied to true life today. This one right here is part of the group that I work with in Planetarium. We went to Colgate University and got to see their facilities and have our conference on their location. So we have international, we have Salt Lake City, and then we have something that is local to the United States. And so Colgate, this is the group that got together that year. I also, with my teaching, want to stay up to date. And this last year, I have been a member of the IAU since I started with the Planetarium in 2005. It's the International Astronomical Union, and they are basically the governing body of anything over astronomy. And so I went to a conference that is taking research and education and putting them together. Instead of things being just research-driven or just education-driven, it's how do we train up these students to incorporate all of these different parts of learning. And that was the first year, and then COVID hit, so we haven't had a second one yet. But this was in Germany, so I got to go to Germany for the first time. This picture up here is Chicxulub. I'm telling you wrong, it's Chichen Itza, which is in Mexico and not far from Chicxulub. That's why I got that backwards. The names are too close. This is one of the monuments that they had that they used to observe, just naked eye observe for their communities many, many years ago. And then this one is in Alexandria. This is actually the Bibliotheca, the Library of Alexandria. This is the new library. The original one burned many years ago, and they built a new one right over as close to the same location as they could. We had one of the planetarium conferences. There's a building right here on the side, and this is the conference center. We got to go into the Bibliotheca as well. Their planetarium is located right here, and it's down a level, so you don't see it from the surface. What was really amazing about this is that we got to study what they believed in their time. We got to study a little bit about the Bibliotheca. We got to study a whole lot about Africa. And we got to hear about how they incorporate this in their schools. And then there was a tour, an after-conference tour that took us back to Cairo. And this particular pyramid right here, we got to go in. And I mean by going in, we got to go into the king's burial chambers. So very rare that they were allowing those at the time. We heard a lot of beware, be very wary when you're traveling, you're going to have issues, pickpockets really bad. This was the most amazing trip I've ever had. We went and people would greet us, little kids would come up and just say, hi mister, hi lady. and just touch your clothes. They just want to be able to say, I met an American. I got to practice my English. And so the trip was just unbelievable. You see armed guards standing on street corners with AK rifles on their shoulders. And, you know, most people would think, well, that's very fearful. For our driver, they told us not to drive, to get a driver, hire a car to driver, which was really great advice. And so our driver would pull up and the armed guard come out, you know, very gruff and said, American visitors, oh, let me help you. And they would move barriers so that we could get door-to-door service. So they were absolutely fantastic. About 90% of their income is trade, visitors coming in to see what it is that they have to offer. So they were absolutely fantastic. And of course, this was probably about 2009, 2010 before there was such an uprising in that area. Not sure I would want to go back today. I told you a little bit about our shows. We have shows every Friday nights. We put in some protocol with COVID to make sure that we have time to disinfect so that the facility is as clean as we can get it in between every group. So instead of starting at 8 o'clock, we built in a little bit of extra time so we can go in and disinfect all the chairs and change the headrests out and so forth. Our current shows right now are Kalu Wakahina, that's our 7 o'clock, and Faster Than Light is at 8 o'clock. So we try to start all of our 7 o'clock shows as one of our kids shows so that we have young people coming in. And then at 8 o'clock is one of our general audience shows. It's good for all ages. The 7 o'clock shows have a tendency to be a little more cartoonish, whereas the 8 o'clock shows are not. And then on the 20th, Kalu Wakahina will change and it will become the Magic Globe, which is again one of our kids shows. And then Faster Than Light just started, so it'll play about 12 weeks, and then eventually we will change it to Violent Universe. The observatory, again, located about 6 or 7 miles outside of town. We use it for classes, labs, research, and public outreach. Because we use it primarily for research for our students that are taking pictures, it's not open on a regular basis. We try quarterly to have a public viewing night, and we'll open the observatory where people come out and look through the telescopes. There's no charge for that, and I'll post it on our website when we get ready to do it. With COVID, we've not opened in over a year, so we're kind of waiting and hoping that we'll get to do that again soon. Most likely again this fall. Physics department wrote a grant, and the grant funded a brand new telescope, which you can see right here. Came in a couple of very large crates and pieces, and our original facility, which you see down here in this picture, and I'll show you another one in just a minute, stopped right here. We didn't have anywhere to house this, so that meant pouring concrete, getting a new dome for it, and getting all the materials set up. And the crates, the parts for this telescope came in 3 pieces, super, super heavy. And of course, how we are in Texas in the springtime, we had a lot of rain that year. So we went and talked to the farm hand, and the guy that's in charge of the farm, he brought a tractor out, picked us up in pieces, and so we put the telescope together in pieces with a farm tractor. So in Texas, we do as we need to do, right? Poured the dome, and got the shell put together, and then we started putting all the pieces in. These guys, this is Matt Wood, who at the time was the department head. This is Kent Montgomery, who is now the current department head, both for physics and astronomy. And then these other guys were some of my students that were working for us at the time in the observatory, or at the planetarium. You can see here that it gets a lot of use and in different ways. This girl right here graduates. She actually graduated this summer. She, this Friday, gets her PhD in astronomy. She is down in College Station. This one, after leaving us, decided to study glaciology. So she went to FIT of Florida to learn about glaciers and got her PhD studying glaciers. So she went to Florida to study glaciers, which took her to Alaska and other places. So you never know where you're going to end up. This is one of our our scopes that are set up. You'll see the blue posts. These are our piers. We have 5 of these now where we can set out telescopes. And then we've got, inside of our old dome, we've got a 16-inch telescope, which is this one right here. It's one I used to do research on. And then our new telescope is inside this dome, and it's a little bit different. We don't look through it, we manage it with computer equipment. Any questions? Yes, ma'am?
At what age did you know this is your interest? And then I have another question after that.
Okay. Long story, very short version.
Well, I was noticing your age groups that you're bringing, and so I was
My
curious.
background is education. I'm a public school teacher by trade. So I used to teach in public school, and this job opened up, and within 15, 20 minutes, I probably had about 40 emails, missed phone calls, text messages. I heard all kinds of things while I was teaching class that day. It's one of those, my phone is on vibrate, and it's in the bottom of my desk, and my desk kept rattling all day long. It's like, okay, something's going on. So when I got a break, I checked, and I heard this, you need to come see me when you get off work today, now. You need to come now. It's like, okay, when I get through, I'll come up to the college. And so went up, and it was like, you need to meet this guy. So they introduced me to then the planetarium director. Our building wasn't even completed at the time. And so I got to go in and meet with him. He's like, well, if you have an interest in the job, apply. Never met him before. That was as long as our conversation was. So I applied for the job and was hired and started that December. And I've been there ever since. I always wanted to learn about astronomy. I took an astronomy class as an undergrad. It was not the best class I ever had. And with teaching, I knew I wanted to continue to progress because I didn't like the way our kids were being taught science, especially after junior high and high school age. We start losing our kids. We lose their interest, they lose interest, and we lose their attention when they're about 5th and 6th grade. And so I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make a change with that. And that's what got me here, because I continued my studies while I was also working full-time. And ended up getting my doctorate in education. And so I've got enough science to teach the science at a higher level, but my passion is actually in just teaching. I just want to work with teachers and with students, and I want to make a difference. I want to change the way we teach our kids. And so that's really where my passion lies.
Okay, then the next question. Do you still have the auditorium type seats for the movies?
Yes, we do.
And what's your charge now?
$5 a head. We just recently changed that, and I'll be honest with you, the only reason we changed it is because we didn't want to handle change. We used to have a little bit less on our ticket prices. Depending on the level though, we were handing back loose change as well as bills, and with COVID, we just didn't want to handle all that.
Is it reservations now? It was at one time.
It was because of COVID, because we had to contact trace, but we're not anymore.
You're not.
So
You're just
reservations are not
who gets
necessary.
there if they get there and there's a seat available, otherwise you're being rejected for the night, right?
Well, we've not had to do that yet. We now have 81 seats, and they're numbered.
Oh,
And
I
so if
see.
we have reservations, we can do a side
Yeah, that's
seat,
what I said, Ann.
which is what we did during COVID, but since we're not requiring the reservations anymore, it's first come, first served on the seating. But we know how many seats we have, so we limit our tickets. We don't oversell. So when we're done, we're done.
And when you were talking about this set number 7 that you updated, is it like broadened your university students? Did it broaden their world, or whose world did it broaden? Your
Mine.
visiting worlds?
Really, it broadened mine. It allows me to do more. It allows our system to do more, and by that, you just kind of have to see it. Used to, we would have a picture and we put it on the dome, or we could go fly to different things in the solar system and we could visit those things. Well, the system has grown in advance to the point now that nebula, which is gas clouds, those are particle pieces that are actually placed into the system so that we can go through and actually fly through in a deep 3D effect.
Okay.
And Discharge 7 allows us to do that. It also allows us to have access to surveys, data sets, data tables that are up to date and active. So people that are out doing research add to those on a regular basis. So all of our information is current.
I noticed you said you put it behind the blueberry farm, but you have to drive through the blueberry farm to get to it?
No, we're on a county road.
Okay, you're on
Our
the county road.
facility is just behind that blueberry farm.
So, when the horse arena, or whatever it's called, when they have all their lights on at night, doesn't that just totally knock you out of abilities?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I live in that area, and I know what it lights up.
Yes.
So y'all have to decide who gets the lighting, or
We're very strategic in planning, so if we've got research going, we try to get from the east to the zenith. So as our object is coming up off the horizon, and as it starts to set in the west, which is where the horse arena is located from us, we just
Right.
finish.
Okay.
So it
And-
works. We're
And
all
I
working
have,
together.
you said that particular eclipse, but I have seen an eclipse
Mhm.
here.
Mhm.
You're just saying that particular one wasn't going to be shown.
Right, right.
Okay.
It allowed us to go take pictures and
I know I've
experience
seen at least
sightseeing.
two out there.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Anybody else?
You mentioned different techniques to teaching students about science. Can you elaborate on that? What it was and what you'd like to change it to?
All right, well, when I was teaching in public school, most of the school system is you read the book, you answer the questions. You explain or explore something and you answer the questions. There's not a whole lot of total exploration. And so the classes that I'm teaching now, I teach a couple of them that are for pre-service teachers. I want them to do those experiments. They're not necessarily at a really high level, but we teach them the pedagogy, the how-to. So they may be doing a chemistry where they're balancing equations and trying to figure out what's going on. Or it could be that we're out there building roller coasters. And you have to experience how that marble, the car, is going to go through the track and then break down the potential energy and the kinetic energy. I want them to take those hands-on experiments back to their classrooms when they're teaching, so that their kids are learning in a way that actually absorbs their interest. They're still learning the same content as if they're reading it, but now they're living it. So it's hands-on, they're hearing it, they're seeing it, they're experimenting, they're actually getting to put things into motion. There's no better way to learn about motion than to make things move. So that's the way I want my teachers to go out and teach their kids. That answer your question?
Yeah, so you're basically teaching teachers.
I am, very much so. Oh, awesome. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. I love planetarium and astronomy stuff, except for the class I took in high school once, because it was way more math than I realized. So I was like, okay, I just want to look at them. Let's see, next month's program is going to be Carol Taylor. She's going to be talking about the Texas Historical Commission. And we have our dinner coming up this Saturday. And that's about everything. Thank you guys, and see you next time.
Thank you.